In today's episode, we take a look at setups on Euro New Zealand dollar, Aussie dollar Swiss franc, pound Swiss franc, and a couple of US indices, the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones. As always, we also take a look at some of the best trades from our Discord trading room. Enjoy. How's it, guys? Welcome to another weekly market review here. As always, I'm just quickly going to run through a few trade ideas with you guys for next week, and I'm going to start us off with the Euro New Zealand dollar. Now this chart was submitted by JMatt in our trading group, and this is a weekly chart. And what is marked off is this weekly order block where he's looking for some longs. And I'm just going to bring up my trading view, and I'm going to mark off this weekly order block. And the weekly order block is basically when this last bearish move before we had the big bullish run. And once we get back there, we could potentially find some support, and then maybe we can find a little bit of a bounce on this bear. Just for the next highs, or potentially maybe a little bit higher, but even this move up to here is about 400 pips, so definitely one worth trading. Now just jumping to the 4-hour time frame, last week in our trading room I did mark off a potential reversal pattern here, and we were looking for some longs in this area, although we see that we had absolutely no price action and the price just dropped through this level. So it's very important that you do trade with some confirmation. And what I do like though is the fact that we did miss that order block. We are heading for that now, which will make it a bit more of a high probability trade. So right now there's no trades, but once we get into this area, then we start hunting for those reversal patterns again. And my first target would be just new highs at this level, where I would normally take about 2/3 of my trade off, and then potentially I might hold some for the higher targets if I can just zoom out, which would be these clean highs over here. Which would be a really nice trade. But again, nothing on no setup yet, but definitely one we're going to be watching next week. Next up, Aussie Swiss franc. This is one I've covered a couple of times, but it's still busy setting up. It's taking its time. It's really in no rush. And we had the market take those highs. If you can watch the previous videos, after that we did have this big consolidation, and then it started breaking down, and we're treating this level as a bit of a flip zone setup. And my idea on this trade is for the market to go back up, take this liquidity into this level, and then we'll find a bigger correction. And even if I can zoom out, potentially taking this chart even much lower to this final target here. So again, a big trade, but one that's still busy setting up. Then pound Swiss franc, one we also covered a few times. On the pound Swiss franc, just to remind you guys, I am looking for this expanding flat to play out, and we did mark off the two levels, the 50 fib and the 61 fib, to start looking for reversals. And we had a bit of a reaction here off the 50 fib, and then the market started flagging, impulsing, flagging, and potentially now we could be going higher. So I'm definitely still looking for longs on this one, and if this level does if it doesn't hold, if we perhaps break higher and we start impulsing down, you might get out the way and start looking for longs at this area. But as it stands right now, it's actually looking quite good, as the impulses are to the upside and we are correcting to the downside. So yeah, potentially another one we can look to add to next week. So next up, I want to look at a couple of US indices, and I'm going to start us off with the S&P 500, and this is an 8-hour chart we're at the moment. This was that big corona drop, and now we're busy, the market's just busy correcting at the moment. We did have the market clear this level of liquidity, add a bit of a distribution, and then came crashing down. Now, what I'm looking to do is treat this as a bit of a flip zone level. The guys that's part of the trading room will know this is a concept that's quite popular in our trading room at the moment. And ideally, what I would like the market to do is to come up to this flip zone area. And this is where I'm going to start hunting for potential shorts, which means I'm not going to be placing any trades yet. I do trade my indices a bit different from my Forex pairs. But we do obviously have our entry rules for this instrument as well. And once we get there, hopefully we'll find at least a bit of a correction lower. This will be sort of a minimum correction for me. It could go even lower, but this is quite a big move, 8 or 9% correction on the indices. The only thing that worries me a bit about the S&P is if it's quite close to this flip zone level. Now, if I bring up the Dow Jones, this was actually a setup I shared during last week. And I'm looking for something similar on the Dow. The only difference is the Dow is a little bit further away from this flip zone area. Which means if the market pushes up, by the time the Dow gets to this area, the S&P might be a little bit higher. So again, I'm going to be watching all the indices and see which one's the best, and if we do get that reversal pattern. I did also have potentially taking a long up to that level if the Dow maybe drops a little bit to this area, which is a bit of a mini flip zone. You can see it better on the lower time frames. And then again, once we're here, that's when we start going to the lower time frames and we hunt for shorts. And Again, this will be similar. I'll be looking for at least a bit of a correction to the downside before maybe ultimately going even higher. But for now, just concentrating on these two levels, and we'll see what we get next week. Right, but that's it from me, guys. I'll see you all in the trading room.